Marketing by the Minute is all about what marketing is and the impact it can have on our lives.
Being in college, there are a lot of unknowns. Finding your path is hard. We're trying to figure it out just like you. We want to share experiences from real Western Washington University alumni that were once standing in our shoes and have made an impact in the marketing field. That's why we created Marketing by the Minute, to inspire us to find our own way and make our mark.
All right, so in front of a live studio audience, Marketing by the Minute is a very special project made by Western Washington University Applied IMC team. This is going to be first of many, and we're your hosts, Clay Ashworth.
I'm Claudia Webster. So we want to welcome our very first Marketing by the Minute guest today, Lizzie Rice. Lizzie is a 2019 Western Washington University marketing graduate and has a rich portfolio in product design. She currently works as Nordstrom as a UX designer. Lizzie, we couldn't think of anybody else more suited to be our first guest. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
We're super good. Very excited to have you.
Yeah. So to start it off, we'd love to know what a typical day in your career looks like. You kind of
this is one of my favorite questions.
I'm sure it's all over the place.
Oh yeah,
but
and if
you had to guess what the answer is, what do you think it is?
Oh gosh,
it depends.
It depends. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
I feel like I remember there was like one of the classes I took in school, and I think it was like Ed or Mark or one of them was like, the answer to everything is it depends. And I'm like, okay, yes, it depends. Surprisingly, I don't get a ton of emails, but let's see. So I'll give you a quick overview of what a UX designer is first. UX designer and product designer can be used interchangeably. Some people argue there's a nuance between them, but the job titles kind of all mesh together. A UX designer is a user experience designer. And so essentially what my job consists of is, when you use an app on your phone and it just makes sense, you can figure out where everything is right away. It's pretty, and it just it feels good to use it, and it's very intuitive. It's my job to design that experience. So a lot of it goes into understanding the people that you're designing for, understanding your users or your customers, and then building the best thing for them. And so my day, it really changes depending on where I'm at in the process. Because there's I can be doing anything from research to doing surveys to user calls, just talking to people, doing field studies, going out and actually meeting users, all the way to actually designing what color this button should be, what words should be on the button. How many pixels apart should things be? And then all the way through to testing my designs with users to see if it makes sense and if they can use it, if it's very intuitive. Right now I just wrapped up a project. So I delivered my designs and I'm working with the engineering team to build out the requirements for it. And so that's a lot of meetings of them telling me what's technically feasible and then me making changes to my designs as I see fit. And so that's kind of what it's like right now. But it's a lot of collaboration, a lot of stakeholder management, and then just heads down time doing actual design work too.
Are you in a remote setting? Are you in an office?
So I work from my dining room table. So this is my home. I am technically fully remote, but I can work from the office if I want to. It's nice because my office is, I live right downtown in Seattle. So my office is half a mile that way, right by the Nordstrom store downtown. Oh yeah. And for reference, I work at Nordstrom, if that's probably helpful. I haven't said that yet. But yeah, so I'm at home right now.
I'm sure students have a preference online classes versus in person. In your job, it seems pretty intense. It's pretty active. You're collaborating with a lot of people. Is it hard to do that over virtual setting?
I think at the beginning of the pandemic, there was definitely a learning curve. There was because we're all used to being in the office. We're all used to being right next to each other. And so there was that moment where I was okay, I do prefer the office and it is easier to get work done then or there, but there's a lot of tools available now to make it a lot easier for you to do this work at home. Have you guys ever used Miro or Mural? It's an infinite whiteboarding tool. Highly recommend. It's really nice. If you ever need to put sticky notes on a wall, but you don't want to put sticky notes on a wall, you can do that there. That's a tool that we use that's really helpful. And so now I'm to the point, since we're pandemic's basically over, fingers crossed, to where it's easier almost to work remote, or not easier, but just as easy or on par with working in person.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my favorite quotes is the best technology should be easy to use. So I totally understand what you mean when you say like making those apps that just they know what you want. They're like working with you, not against you. Is that something that you found an interest in when you were at Western? Did you think that you were ever going to go into that sort of that realm of marketing?
Yeah, so I originally when I like got into Western, I knew that I wanted to go into marketing. I started doing marketing when I was in high school. I used to do like promotion work for a company called USC Events. They used to put on like Paradiso, Freak Night, and all that stuff. And so originally going into it, I was like, I want to go into social media marketing. Like, this is what I want to do. And then when I got to Western, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to minor in. And I was like, there's so many different minors I could pick from, but like, what really would help me hone in on like what I want to get into. And then I found the UX minor that Western offers. And then I was like, oh, this looks interesting. And my aunt talked to me a little bit about UX design and like what it all entails. And so then I like just kind of looked into it more and I was like, oh, this seems really cool because I love people and I wanted to get into marketing to help people and help people find things that they really love and make those connections. But then I'm also really creative and I also like the analytical side of things. And that's kind of all what UX is. And so if you would have asked me going into school, I would have said, no, I have no idea what a UX designer even does. But now, or like not now, but like probably about 2 years in, I was like, okay, I think this is what I want to do.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, it definitely seems like kind of a complementary that major and the minor that came together that really worked out for you. Um, so at the end of the day, we walked through your day you're working on. You just wrapped up a huge project. At the end of the day, what do you think you find the most meaningful and valuable about your work?
I think the most meaningful thing for me is that I get to help solve other people's problems and I get to help make their lives easier. I am a very empathetic person and I love helping others. And it's really cool for me that I get to make people's lives easier through the things that I design. Like I just finished a tool for closeouts, which is essentially when you're buying things from Nordstrom Rack, sometimes vendors will come to you and be like, hey, I have all these like sandals and it's the winter and I need to get them like out of my inventory. They're like super discounted. And so they'll come to our buyers and be like, hey, do you guys want these items basically? And the buyers do like a ton of analysis to figure out does it make sense to buy these things. Right now it's done in Excel. There's a lot of oh my god, what's it called? Not SQL, but it'll come to me later. But basically there's like a lot of the things that run in Excel to pull a lot of data from the databases. And so it takes like a long time. It can take like 20 minutes to run some of these things. And you really have to be quick with these. And so I just designed a tool to help make that whole process a lot easier. So you don't have to do it in Excel anymore. There's none of the like loading time for all the data. It's just all there so they can go through it quickly. And that's really cool to me because not only will this impact the people that I'm designing for, but it also will have an impact on our business as well.
You say on your website that you're a customer obsessed product designer. I think that speaks a lot to that. Is there a way that you kind of think of the client, like besides the B2B, like when you come in and you think of if you were shopping at Nordstrom, like is that something that isn't a huge consideration in your job point?
So I think that's a really interesting question because it is a consideration for me, like the things, but it's like I'm at the very top of the shopping funnel for like an actual customer. Like if you and I were to go to Nordstrom and buy something, like what I'm doing is like way far beyond like actually purchasing things. And so like I do think about that. I think about like what information does the customer need to make their decision, and then how can I design a tool so that the buyers can input that information. But as like so I'm a business to business UX designer since I'm building the tool for people within Nordstrom, and then in the past I've done things for like other businesses. So it's less of it. I guess it depends, but it's less of like that end customer, at least for me at Nordstrom, because I'm building something for the buying office. Like those are my customers. But it is still something that I think about. If I were to ever pivot to like one of the other teams, like if I were to work on the app or work on like any of our styling tools, that would be more of a focus for me there.
So out of college, did you want to go into like fashion retail, like a company like Nordstrom, or is it just kind of played out that way?
So my second job ever was actually at Nordstrom, working during anniversary sale, which is right now. So buy things while you can. Um,
Amazing.
And so I like my second job ever was at Nordstrom. I really loved it. I've always loved clothing. I've always spent way too much money at Nordstrom. And so I've always wanted the discount. And so I've always wanted to work at Nordstrom, but I didn't think it was fully I didn't think that I'd have the opportunity to work here as quickly as I did after I graduated. I thought I'd have to get more experience elsewhere and then make the pivot over. And so it is something that I wanted to do. I just didn't realize that it'd be able to happen so soon. But yeah, I love the fashion industry. But I don't know if I'll stay here forever. I also really love music. Like I was saying earlier to my fiance, I was like, I would love to work for SoundCloud or Spotify, just because I absolutely love music, and so like that'd be really cool. Um, but yeah, for now, I'm very very happy here.
So, like bouncing off that, do you think for somebody who's graduating or who just graduated, should they look for something that they're really interested, or should they kind of take what they get?
I think that's really tough. I personally just kind of had to take what I could get because marketing is not a traditional pathway into UX design. Typically, you'll be like a computer science major, a design major, like industrial design major, something like that to become a UX designer. And so I was just kind of looking for a job. And the way that I got into it was through one of my internships at Boeing. They kept me on full time afterwards. And then I pivoted and it was like UX within marketing in a way there. Um, and so I don't know. I go back and forth. I think that you should be picky and that you should like apply at places that you want to work. But if you get a job, you should take the job because like for reference, I applied to over 100 jobs after I got, or before I
Wow.
graduated and after I graduated. But my story is very different from everyone else's. So I think it just like, it also depends on what you want. Like if somebody really has a dream and they want to work at a specific company, like you should like try to work there as hard as you can.
Yeah.
But also if you're open to kind of going anywhere, you should.
Cool. So yeah, we kind of touched on your successes and you're working in your passion. You really like what you're doing. So we pulled a value from your website, and that's a growth mindset. So the first version will never be the one. You must fail and iterate again to come up with the best idea. So is this quote coming from like personal experience?
Yes. I am a very like uh I don't know, I'm a very positive person that kind of goes into the growth mindset is like there's some designers out there, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but there's some designers out there who are like very attached to the designs that they do and the things that you do and you like create because you're literally making
Mhm.
something and it's like it's such a personal thing to make something and then share that with people and then like share it with the world from like a like for people using it perspective and you can very easily get attached to that and it can be very hard when you get attached to actually make changes and like break it and then rebuild it. And so that's kind of what that comes out of is that like I am totally fine with like getting really harsh feedback and destroying my designs and then putting it all back together in a better way. And I think that that growth and that iteration of going through and getting feedback from people and making changes and breaking it and rebuilding it and trying different ideas is really important and a very important part of the process. And then just also staying positive while you do it because like don't get me wrong, it can be draining when people are just like, oh, like this button should say something like this, or why did you do that? But
Mhm.
in the end, it always makes the best thing for our customers or for our users. And that's kind of what helps get me through it is like, it's just a part of the process. And no one is saying that to be mean. They're saying that so that we can make the best thing possible.
Yeah, that's really great insight. Did you experience anything around your career, maybe transitioning jobs, where it felt kind of like two steps forward, one step back? Like maybe a personal story that just kind of
Yeah.
brought you
So
back?
I actually had that happen pretty recently. So if you look at my LinkedIn, I was at T-Mobile for a hot minute, which I think was
Mhm.
actually like 6 months technically.
Mm.
But I knew that I needed to switch from my job at PitchBook. I wanted to move to a different company, try a different space, try something out. And I got a job at T-Mobile, and I was really excited because I was going to come work on their mobile app. I was going to be on a team that was going to completely redesign the mobile app and make it like a totally new experience. And I was like, this is awesome. I don't have any mobile experience. So it'll be something new that I can try. It's a big company. It's a good name. I've heard it's a great culture, getting paid more. Like, this is awesome. So I was like, okay, this feels like a good, like, few steps forward in the right direction. And then I got there, and turns out that the project did not have the like buy-in from the executive leadership that I thought it did. And so it wasn't just really, it wasn't at the spot that I assumed it was from the interview. And so then I was like, what do I do? And so 3 months, I kind of reevaluated, and I was like, one, am I doing the job that I like wanted to do here? No. Am I happy with what I'm doing? No. And I was like, okay, I need to make a change. And so then I started applying to other jobs. That's when I applied to Nordstrom and got the role here and everything. And it was nice because now I feel like I'm like finally back on track, but it was like, it really felt like I didn't take just one step back, but took a few steps back from that. And it's also hard because it's like, you always worry that like, because you're always told like you have to stay at a company for at least 2 years. Like employers might think that's weird. That's completely changing. Like I have a friend that switched jobs every single year. Granted, she like was at the same company for a while and pivoted, but like she's changed jobs quite a bit, and she works in recruiting, and she's like, that doesn't matter anymore. And so I was really worried because I was like, I've only been here for 3 months. Like people are going to think that's weird, but like that's not the case. And I think that like if you're not happy in a job, try something else, get out of it, and get out of it sooner rather than later, because you can spin it to be a whole learning opportunity. Because I learned a lot from that time there, even though I didn't really do a whole lot of work. I learned that I needed to be like pickier and ask better questions in the interview process, and like really get to know people before making the decision to switch companies.
Are there any specific questions you would recommend to ask any company that you'd be interviewing in?
I think it like depends on the role. Specifically for me, I was asking like what is the buy-in for this project? Like what is the current state of the project? Like why is this role being hired for? If it's like, so the space that I'm working in right now, it's like a new tool that's being built at Nordstrom. So I would ask like, why is this a new priority for Nordstrom? Like what has changed in the last few months that's made it a priority for you to hire for this role? And like, how can somebody be successful in this role? Ask about what type of projects they have planned for the role, because then they can give you more like concrete examples of like, these are the things you'll work on. Just kind of questions about that, and just spending time to really get to know the manager as well.
I think it's probably really valuable for you to have that experience like early in your career instead of later on, because it kind of sets a standard, and you can kind of like narrow down what you want in the future. So it's pretty cool, even though it sucked, but
Yeah, it wasn't fun, but like I'm really glad that it happened,
yeah,
even though it was kind of a crappy 3 months. I met some cool people at T-Mobile that I still run into every once in a while, and they were really great. And had I not switched and taken that bad job and then applied at Nordstrom later, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I'm like,
yeah.
I'm happy with it. But as I said, I'm typically a very positive person, so I'll put a positive spin on anything, even the worst of situations.
Absolutely. Speaking of Nordstrom and where you are today, you just said you wrapped up, or you're kind of working through a big project right now. You've expressed that you have interest in things like Spotify, SoundCloud. Is there anything that you're working on that you might want some of us to know, or like what's up next for Lizzie Rice, basically?
So I guess like right now I'm just kind of, I guess the next project I'm working on that I think is pretty cool. It's about like getting items into our database. So like you go to Nordstrom, you buy a shirt, but like how does the data about that item get into our database? So that's the next thing that I'll be working on that I'm really excited about, and it'll be really cool. Personally, next thing for me is I'm going to Europe next week, so like that's gonna be fun. But so yeah, I'm just kind of packing and panic buying a bunch of stuff for that right now.
Right. Well, it's the sale, so you're good.
Yes. And I get my discount on top of the sale. That's how I justify it. And then my fiance's like, Lizzie, you're not saving money, you're spending money. And I'm like, but I saved money.
Oh, we need to go shopping, Lizzie.
Just let me know. Let me know when you're downtown. But yeah, I think that's kind of what I have next. I'm excited to dig into the project that I'll have when I get back.
So the project that you kind of wrapped up right now, those kind of projects, do you ever go back to them, or is it just kind of like you finish it up?
You always go, I guess, okay. You always want to go back. So like, it's like you always want to constantly iterate and make things better. Like you'll release the MVP or like the minimal viable product right away. And then like the idea is that you'll make a lot of assumptions, and then you'll be able to test those things once you actually release it. And then you can make changes and make it better as you go on. So ideally we will come back to it and make it better. But specifically with this project, with the way that we are going with like inventory management and like getting like those closeout offers, I think that this tool could actually not exist in the next few years, which I'm totally fine with because I don't think
Mm.
it should exist right now. I think that there's a better process in the future that will come down, and that'll be the best way to do these things. And so we'll make iterations on it for a while, but then I think eventually it'll turn into a totally different thing, which is really cool.
That kind of relates to what you said in the beginning. Like you can't get attached to things you create. That's crazy that it can just disappear. Something that you worked so hard on.
Yeah, it can, which is like fine with me because because I said like at the end of the day it's just like making things better
Yeah.
for the person, and it's like, I mean, I took some time and I got a lot out of building it, so it's fine with me.
Another question I had before when you were mentioning, you know, people tell you what to improve, like when you present it to them. Does it get to a point where it's like, dang, I'm making stuff for other people and not really myself, or is that just kind of part of your creative process? Is it always about the other
It's
person,
always
or
about
is
our
it?
users. It's always about our users at the end of the day. Like that. I mean, it's the name, like user experience designer. It's always about them. And so,
Mhm.
like I'll never use this tool. I guess I shouldn't say never. Like, what if I suddenly became
Yeah.
a buyer? That'd be really cool. Then I would use the tool. But that's not my career plan. So I will never use it. And so, and that's kind of that's the thing about UX design is it's not often that you are designing a tool that you actually use. I mean, unless you work at like Facebook or Instagram or something like that. But personally, I wouldn't want to work at a
Mhm.
place like that because I feel like I would get too in my head of being like, well, I'm the user. This is what I want. When
Yeah.
you can't always do
Mhm.
that because like your users are like, they're not you. And like how you see the world and how you want to do things is not how they might want to do things. And so having that boundary of me being like, I'm not building this tool for me, um, lets me separate myself from that and be a better designer.
So it's a little different than, say, an artist.
It's a little bit more analytical. So like I'll take a lot of feedback that I'll get from either like research that I've done or research that my UX research partners have done, and I'll make design decisions based on that data. And so it's nice because it's like it's creative in a way, but there's like restraints to it, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
We've got a little game for you to play.
One final question.
Yeah, the big one.
So marketing by the minute. In 1 minute or less, what does marketing mean to you?
Oh my
Our
God.
producer is starting a timer.
I really just want to say it depends.
Mm, it's
I
a good
get,
answer.
yeah, our
Yeah.
listeners can relate.
Oh, we actually have a minute.
So,
Okay. So dang it.
5 seconds.
I think that marketing is a lot of different things, but I think at the core of it, it's really understanding your customers or your users, and connecting with them in the best way possible, whether that be an email, whether that be a social media post, whether that be the way that you design an app. It's really connecting with people and getting to know them. Um, and so I think that is what I would say it is. And look, I did that in 30 seconds.
Look at
Yeah, you
So
that.
not
passed.
even a
Wow.
Passed
minute,
Yeah,
the
you
30
test.
seconds.
Perfect.
All right. Once again, thank you so much. This is Lizzie Rice, UX UI product designer at Nordstrom. We are so grateful. And if there is anything that we can follow you on, we would love to hear that for our listeners.
Yeah, feel free to follow me on, I mean, I guess you can follow me on Instagram. It's like not work related, but if you like really wanted to see my life, you can. It's
I
just,
want to see the Europe photos.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
during my Europe
Yeah, we
Fest, I'm
gotta
going to a
follow the
really cool music
vacation.
festival too. You'll see a lot of tech now, so just
Okay.
Okay,
beware,
cool.
be wary for that. And then you always add me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people in the marketing department. I got so much out of being a student at Western from like my professors and the other students around them from the SMA. I'm always really excited to give back. So please reach out. Don't hesitate to like message me on LinkedIn, add me on LinkedIn. You can give people my email. I really don't care. I just want to be able to help all the students because I don't know. I feel like alumni are always so valuable, and I feel very fortunate to be in a position to where I can help students and like where I'm at now. So, and it doesn't even have to be about UX design either. It can be about anything. So,
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is all the time we have today. Thank you so much for tuning in to our first episode. We'd like to thank our production team. We have Nicole Shive and Jerry Manzano as producers and equipment managers. Our editing team is Jace Gerson and Bianca Slamit, and we have our executive producer and managing editor, Riley Hewitson. We're your hosts. I'm Claudia Webster.
And I'm Clay Ashworth.
It's time to make your mark. Stay tuned for the next episode of Marketing by the Minute.